Jimmy and Rosalynn Carter have called each other full partners for all of their 76-year marriage. It's the longest marriage of any first couple in American history.
I think people don't really understand just what an astonishing partnership this was and how long it lasted.
But it actually goes back to the very beginning of Rosalynn's life. Both of them are from Plains, Georgia, and Rosalynn actually was delivered as a baby by Lillian Carter, Jimmy Carter's mother. They started dating when Jimmy Carter came home from the Naval Academy during World War II and was more or less fixed up with Rosalynn Smith by one of his sisters.
The best thing ever had happened in my life was when she said she would marry me, and did.
Rosalynn and Jimmy talk about how angry she was when they moved back to Plains in the 50s. But the partnership really cemented itself from there, first in the family peanut business. Rosalynn dived in alongside her husband and managed the books and really learned the details of the business.
And she turned out to be, in some ways, better at business than her husband, in the same way that she had more of a political cunning than he did.
Evidence of how much Jimmy trusted Rosalynn started immediately at the White House.
Unlike Jimmy Carter, Rosalynn Carter has very few critics. Now, at the time she was First Lady, some people objected to her sitting in on cabinet meetings. They thought that was improper in some way. She didn't say anything in the cabinet meetings, but she, wanted to be fully informed so that she could give her husband good advice. She was a closer advisor to her husband than any other First Lady, with the possible exception of Eleanor Roosevelt and Hillary Clinton.
That bond and the trust between the two was put on display in the 1980 presidential campaign when President Carter was running for re-election. In the heat of the campaign, 52 Americans were held hostage in the American embassy in Iran, and Carter felt like he had to stay at the White House. He couldn't campaign as actively as he would have. So what did they do? They sent Rosalynn around the country, and she campaigned on behalf of her husband.
About an hour ago, I called Governor Reagan in California, and I told him that I congratulated him for a fine victory. I look forward to working closely with him during the next few weeks.
They both had a very hard time after he lost, not just because it's hard losing, but they were young. They were in their 50s. They were sort of humiliated by the voters. Rosalynn talked about a comeback, which was crazy. She was depressed. He was at least mildly depressed.
The partnership always continued even after the presidency. We're standing here at the Carter Presidential Center, and the Carter Center is not just the Jimmy Carter Center. Jimmy and Rosalynn Carter founded this together and opened in 1982, and they expanded the public health programs, the diplomacy outreach, the conflict resolutions. And yes, would this have ever come about were he not the former president himself? It would not have. He had to have the presidency to have the Carter Center, but he wouldn't have had either without Rosalynn and her influence. And her imprint runs very deep, and that partnership kind of is the foundation and the frame for the Carter Center and all of its work.